Once upon a time, in a not-so-distant future, an extraordinary event unfolded that would forever change the world as we knew it. It began on a sunny morning in the quiet town of Meadowville, a picturesque place surrounded by lush green meadows and a dense forest teeming with wildlife. The residents of Meadowville were ordinary folk, going about their daily lives with little expectation of the extraordinary things that were about to happen. In the heart of Meadowville, nestled among the tall trees, was an enchanting little cottage that belonged to an elderly woman named Mrs. Jenkins. She had spent her entire life surrounded by animals, finding solace in their company. Mrs. Jenkins was known throughout the town for her gentle nature and her seemingly magical ability to communicate with the creatures of the forest. She had always had an uncanny understanding of their sounds and gestures, but little did she know that her connection with animals was about to take a remarkable turn. One sunny morning, as Mrs. Jenkins ventured into the woods to collect berries, she noticed something peculiar. The normally bustling forest was eerily silent. The chirping of birds had ceased, and the rustling of leaves had disappeared. Mrs. Jenkins couldn't shake off the feeling that something extraordinary was about to happen. As she made her way deeper into the woods, she stumbled upon a clearing she had never seen before. In the center of the clearing stood a majestic oak tree, its branches stretching towards the heavens. And gathered around the tree were animals of all shapes and sizes, gazing up at its towering presence. Mrs. Jenkins couldn't believe her eyes. She cautiously approached the group of animals, her heart pounding with anticipation. To her astonishment, as she drew near, she heard a soft, melodic voice emanating from the oak tree. It was a voice unlike anything she had ever heard before, a voice filled with wisdom and tranquility. The voice spoke, "Welcome, Mrs. Jenkins. We have been waiting for you." Unable to contain her excitement, Mrs. Jenkins looked around, her eyes wide with wonder. Who are you?" she stammered. "I am the spirit of the forest," the voice replied. "And I have granted you a special gift, the ability to hear and understand the language of animals. From this day forward, you shall be their voice, their advocate, and their guide." Mrs. Jenkins felt a surge of overwhelming joy. Her lifelong dream had come true, and she was filled with a profound sense of purpose. She thanked the spirit of the forest and pledged to use her newfound ability to protect and nurture the animals she loved so dearly. Word of Mrs. Jenkins' gift spread like wildfire throughout Meadowville and beyond. People from far and wide came to witness the miracle unfolding in their midst. They marveled as Mrs. Jenkins spoke with birds, rabbits, squirrels, and even the majestic deer that roamed the forest. But as the animals began to communicate with humans, it became clear that they had much to say. They shared tales of the destruction caused by deforestation, pollution, and habitat loss. They spoke of the pain they endured at the hands of hunters and poachers. They expressed their longing for a world where humans and animals could coexist in harmony. Mrs. Jenkins, fueled by her deep love for the animal kingdom, became a passionate advocate for their rights. She organized rallies, spoke at conferences, and tirelessly campaigned for stricter laws to protect wildlife. Her voice echoed through the halls of power, resonating with compassion and empathy. The world took notice. Governments implemented stricter regulations to safeguard the environment and protect endangered species. Education programs were launched to instill a sense of responsibility and reverence for nature in the hearts of future generations. The tide was turning, and a new era of respect and understanding between humans and animals was dawning. Years passed, and Mrs. Jenkins grew older. She watched with pride as her message of love and compassion reverberated across the globe. The once silent forests began to teem with life once more as animals thrived in their restored habitats. On a crisp autumn evening, as Mrs. Jenkins sat on her porch, surrounded by her animal friends, she closed her eyes and listened to the symphony of voices around her. The birds sang, the rabbits chattered, and the deer grazed peacefully in the distance. She knew that her time in this world was drawing to a close, but she was content. With a smile on her face, Mrs. Jenkins whispered her gratitude to the spirit of the forest for the extraordinary gift she had been given. She knew that her legacy would live on in the hearts of all those who had learned to listen, understand, and cherish the voices of animals. And so, the tale of Mrs. Jenkins, the woman who could speak to animals, became a legend that was passed down through generations. It served as a reminder of the power of empathy and compassion, and how the world could be transformed when humans and animals joined together in a harmonious chorus of understanding and love. Subscribe.